Happy holidays, everybody. It's that time of year again for another fun, crazy, wacky, Christmas-themed hip-hop record. And, the last couple of years, I'm looking at sort of what I did already, and it's all been Christmas raps by sort of known acts, like Juice Crew rap, Ice-T, maybe lesser known, like Tony and the Schizo, but all sort of Christmas records by big hip-hop artists, even the ICP. So this time, if you're an unknown group, but still a very fun hip-hop record, this is none other than the Sugarplum Gang. Not to be confused, of course, with the Sugar Hill Gang. This is from 1983, though, so this is absolutely when the Sugar Hill Gang were still current and still putting out records. They were going on to like 1985, roughly. So this was a contemporary reference. A Visit from St. Nicholas, the Sugar Plum Gang, on Plum Crazy Records, and this is the only record on that label. This is a one-off. The song is called A Visit from St. Nicholas, the Christmas Rap, but it's really essentially "'Twas the Night Before Christmas," which is already, a famous rhymed Christmas poem, turned into a rap. And actually, they do a pretty credible job. I mean, you might say, well, that's pretty easy and simple, straightforward thing that any idiot could do. But really, I've heard enough of novelty records and goofy rap by, outsider artists that should not be taken for granted. A lot of these people really approach hip-hop completely incompetently, and it sounds really offbeat and off-mesh. This actually sounds like a pretty credible, you could even kind of believe, you certainly wouldn't say, Melly Mel and Grandmaster Caz had better watch their backs, here come the Sugar Plum Gang or anything. But, for how it sounds, they actually do sound fairly credible on this record. It's also got some really great production. This is actually a California record, 1983, West Coast. And while the actual members of the Sugar Plum Gang aren't anybody I've ever heard of before, I mean, they list some names here: Joe Paliello, Terrence Murphy, and Joe Castrodale. No idea who those guys are, but on the instrumental features a horn section from Oingo Boingo, which was a big pop 80s group. In fact, they're probably best known today for being the original group of Danny Elfman, who, is now a huge film composer who does all of Tim Burton's films, and Army of Darkness. He did the big Army of Darkness theme song as the zombies march on the castle and everything. So that's Danny Elfman. He's a big composer today, and he's still works with Oingo Boingo, and they're basically known for being his group. But in the 80s, Oingo Boingo was a pretty known group. I don't follow pop music at all, and I'd heard of them. But Danny Elfman, I should say, is not involved with this record at all. It's just other members of Oingo Boingo play on here. But what you get is a really live, pretty funky instrumentation. It's got a bass line that sort of sounds like maybe it's kind of drifting into Rapper's Delight territory, but it's not the same bass line. It sounds pretty funky in its original. But then it's got great horns. It's just got a really great funky kind of track. Definitely that sort of disco era stuff. This is not post-Run DMC. This is pre-Run DMC, so it's that kind of sound. But it's pretty lush. It's pretty well done. I mean, even some known hip-hop artists, you think of Africa Bambaataa doing Throwdown and all that, where they had sort of, well, even he described it as circus music. I think maybe it's a little harsh on his own backup band, but still, sometimes you did get some less than fantastic backing music to some real hip-hop artists in the early 80s. Here, maybe you've got less strong, credible MCs on the mic, but better background music. Of course, it's all in service of a silly Christmas novelty rap record, though. So like I said, it is The Night Before Christmas. Lyrically, that's what it is, word for word, that's what they do. But they do break it up, they kind of interject it. First of all, you got a couple MCs kind of going back and forth doing the rhymes. First is two guys, but then later on they got a girl singing on there and doing some of the lines, and then I think a third guy comes in. But also then in between they'll have things like a little chipmunk voice sings Jingle Bells, for a chorus or something. So they're keeping things lively, plus again, it's got a really bouncy instrumental, and also it's a pretty fun, funky record. And they do turn "'Twas the Night Before Christmas" into a credible sounding rap. So, for a Christmas novelty rap, within that little subgenre, this is actually pretty solid. It's a pretty strong record overall. Interesting here now, I've got two versions of it. I got two copies, but you'll see they're different picture covers. One, of course, is more of the traditional 12-inch single style with the cutout center. And this is the more solid picture cover. But this one, actually, I don't want to mess with it because it's old or anything, but it is like Christmas wrapping paper, taped onto a plain generic sleeve. But then it's like a perfectly cut out circle. It's not like this was hand done by some random guy. It was semi-professionally done. But this version, is a real legit pressed picture cover. It's got a back cover and all. It's like a full professional thing. And it's the same artwork, essentially. Technically, you look at it and say, well, no, it's not, because here you got a kid going, I like Christmas. My dog likes it too. And that's not on here. So they're essentially two different picture covers. But if you link it up here, you can kind of see, look at that. That matches up. It's the same pattern repeating eventually, So, that Santa Claus there, those legs are these legs. So it's the same thing. So I don't know what the story is here. If I were to guess, maybe these were done independently first, and then they sold, they got a label to produce some professional ones, so they made these. But I don't know. The records themselves have identical labels and everything, so it doesn't look like there's two different pressings necessarily, but definitely two very different picture covers. A professional solid picture cover, and then this kind of handmade almost 12-inch cover. They do actually credit the wrapping paper in the extensive liner notes here on the back. CPS Industries did the wrapping paper, so I guess that's the origins of the 12-inch, is that they did legitimately just use standard wrapping paper for the 12-inch and then turned it into this kind of glossier picture cover. So it's just one song, but there are actually different versions on here. The A-side has the extended version, then the B-side has a shortened down edited radio edit, which is about half the length. It's about 6-something minutes on the main version, and about 3-something for the radio edit, and then an instrumental also on the B-side. I definitely prefer the extended version. I feel like sort of the more definitive version. But like you would expect from an extended version, it doesn't feature any additional vocals or anything. Basically just lets the beat ride, which you would expect. But it's actually almost all the extra instrumentals in the front. It's very front-loaded with the extra instrumental. Because it's live stuff, it's not just, we're just going to let this loop play over and over again. It sounds really good. You got a lot of horns and stuff. And except for the fact that you do hear a little bit of Christmas jingles and stuff hinted at in the instrumentals coming up to it, for the most part, you wouldn't even really get that it's a Christmas record until the vocals come in. So for the first couple minutes, it just sounds like a legitimate instrumental, funky 70s disco style kind of record. So that's my main version, but for this, for the sake of this video, I'll play you the edit version so you don't have to listen to like 3 minutes of instrumental to get to the point. So we'll listen to a clip of the Sugarplum Gang, A Visit from St. Nicholas, parenthetically the Christmas Rap. Again, this was 1983, Plum Crazy Records. We'll play the radio edit.
Christmas went all through the house. Not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney we kept, in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there.
The children were nestled all snug in their beds, while visions of sugar plums danced in their heads. And Mama in her kerchief and I in my cap had just settled our brains for a long winter's nap.
When out on the lawn there arose such a clatter, I stretched my bed to see what was the matter. Away to the window I flew like a flash, tore open the shutters and drew up the sash.
The moon on the breast of the new-fallen snow gave a luster of midday to objects below, when what to my wondering eyes should appear but a miniature sleigh